the time that Ranieri was in trouble, and it said last year it was like they climbed Everest, and then this year it was like they got down, somebody patted them on the back and said, go up and climb Everest again. Like, is that not a natural human reaction to what they achieved last year?
I get it if they'd gone from winning it, which was a fantastic achievement, to being mid-table. You know, winning, drawing, losing, winning, drawing. But they went from being the best in the country to they were very close to being in the bottom three at one point. Now, there's going to be, no one expected them to be able to perform to the same levels, but you don't expect to go from, you know, every week an 8.5 out of 10 down to a 3.5 out of 10. And there has to be a reason for that. I come back to this is a group of players that were assembled, and not my words, Schmeichel, the goalkeeper's words, they're a team of misfits and cast-offs. And, you know, a group of players have been brought together that have been sort of pushed out of maybe bigger clubs. And, you know, they left the bigger clubs for a reason. They weren't at big clubs. They weren't still at big clubs for a reason. Because someone saw somewhere down the line in their careers they weren't good enough. So they ended up at Leicester. And they reached the heights that, well, no one thought they could. They were never going to achieve that again. And I'm struggling to find another way of saying it. They had flaws in their character at previous clubs, they were exposed, and then they ended up at Leicester, and they've showed up again, and they'll show up again.
I saw an interview with Christian Fuchs recently where he was saying that they were almost trying too hard at times. They were, because of the results that were going against them, they were still trying to do the same things they were doing last season. They were trying too hard at times. They were continuously trying to run through things. They were looking at the videos of the games. But the one thing that I would have noticed them when I've watched them live this season, I don't think they did have that same work rate. I don't think they did have the same desire. No, it certainly wasn't there when I was watching them.
You don't agree? You didn't think they were...
I didn't agree with what he was saying. And fair enough, maybe mentally, up in your head, you know, you can perhaps overthink things. You can perhaps maybe get in that rut where everything's grinding you down. But it's very noticeable watching them, Tommy, they didn't have that same desire and work rate.
Their level of ability. The only way that group can be effective in the big games against the good teams, the very good teams, the best teams, if they outmatch them for effort. They can't say, we're going to go in there and we're not going to give 100% effort because we're all technically gifted now, we're champions, and we'll play them a game of football. They've got no chance. That's what I believe happened. They can only be effective at this level if they're bang at it mentally in terms of what effort they put into it.
What I want to ask you about, specifically related to that thing of, you know, winning the league and come back next year, like you played a Liverpool team that won, you know, season after season. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you scale Everest again after climbing the peak previous months?
You have very good players, and you have people who are mentally tough. I mean, what the late Ronnie Moran would say a dozen times this season when we're playing at home, he said, this game for you guys might not be your biggest game of the season, but the guys across the corridor, when the fixtures came out in the summer, they circled this as the highlight of their season. So unless you go out there and match them, as good as you might be, or you think you are, unless you go out and match them for effort, you ain't going to beat them. And it was just a little reminder, and again, another thing they would say was, go out and match them for effort, and we've got a great chance of winning. Because you're good players, you've got ability. But unless you match them for effort, and we were a team that won the European Cup regularly, and they were saying that about teams that were in the lower parts of what was the first division. Unless we matched them for effort, we weren't going to beat them. And that's what I think Leicester's problem was. Some of them allowed themselves to get into an armchair because they've been champions, and all of a sudden they're starting to believe the hype.
Well, let's hear from a player who you might say